Good evening and welcome back to the forum. Now, our big summer of sport continues to get bigger, so lots of questions. My name's Jon Smith, and on the panel with me tonight I have Philip Beard, Chief Executive of Queen's Park Rangers and a senior member of the Olympic Bidding Committee. A good thing to have. Wish I had that on my CV. How do you feel? 5 weeks to go before the Olympics.
It was great we won it, and I can't believe now that there's just over 5 weeks until the opening ceremony. I think it'll take London by storm, and I think for the Olympics and of course the Paralympics afterwards, it'll be a summer that we can all remember.
I agree with you. That's excellent. 5 weeks to go. Kate Hoey, one of the most potent former sports ministers of our time, Labour MP for Vauxhall, and today in the news, criticising, questioning our lack of government appearance in the Ukraine.
No, what I was really saying, look, we've qualified now. If we get through to the semi-final and the final, then the sports minister should go and not be told he can't go because of something that we knew all along, that Ukraine has got very bad human rights.
Has it gone a bit sour?
I just think the whole thing of bringing up the human rights issue now, when we've known for years that Ukraine's not a very nice place, but our fans out there seem to be enjoying themselves. So,
well, that's, I guess, the most important thing, really.
Yeah.
And Hugo Taylor, star of Made in Chelsea and voted by readers of the Independent newspaper as one of the most influential men in Great Britain last year. So your influence is very welcome here tonight.
Thank you.
I need to put you on the spot. We are fellow Gooners.
Yes.
Now, we've signed 2 strikers. What do you reckon? Is Van Persie on his way?
I mean, I'm checking BBC gossip column every morning and every night before I go to bed just for any rumours that he might be leaving. But, you know, he's the captain of our team and I love him more than anything, so I want him to stay.
I've got a funny feeling he might just stay. We might have a potent striker.
I think we've got a chance to win next season. I generally do.
Excellent. Well, I won't argue with that. Yeah. Okay, we have some calls. We have a lot of calls coming in, and we have a gentleman, I understand, called David Chidley. Have I got your name right, David? David Chidgey?
Chidgey.
Ah, got you, David, loud and clear. Well, the panel is all yours. What would you like to ask?
Well, the question I wanted to ask was really about JT. We know we've had that big ruck about Rio, complaining that he should have been in the side. So the question really is, do you think that after JT's performance last night that he's justified in his inclusion on football reasons?
Okay, thanks, David. I'm going to go to you, Philip, first. Now, I'll preface this that I know there are issues around Ferdinand Anton Ferdinand that you can't discuss. They're prejudice. We don't prejudice that case.
Sure.
But what do you think? What are your views of JT being there?
Well, I think on footballing reasons, you have to allow the manager to manage. And Roy Hodgson's been in the job for a couple of months now, picked a squad to go out to Ukraine and Poland. And I guess you're always going to be judged by results.
And he's always said it was about football as well.
But it has to be. Well, at the moment, I think it's 7 points out of 9. We topped the league, which probably was beyond expectation. Who knows how far we can go. And if we carry on moving forward, then he will always have felt like he's picked the right squad for the tournament.
So the answer, yes, he did the right thing.
If you win, you always get the right decisions right, I think.
Now, how close, Kate, does football and politics intertwine on matters like this? I mean, everyone hates racism.
I mean, racism is something that supporters all over condemn. So I think we start off from that. He also is innocent till he's proved guilty anyway.
Which is a very good point.
Which is absolutely, and I think, he's had many years of loyalty, both to his own club, Chelsea, which has been fantastic, and to England. And I feel that he's done no worse or no better than the rest of the team. I mean, he's just been John Terry.
And he's doing a good job.
Yes, I think so. On the football field, which is what it's all about. I mean, they're through, which is the most important thing. And now it's every match matters, and 50-50.
Absolutely.
As a football fan, excuse me, as a football fan, do you have a view on who should play for England, or is it just, I want to watch the 11 best players?
No, you definitely want to see the best people in the country representing each position that they play in, and as much as.
Are you influenced by the politics around it?
I'd rather just see the best people playing in the best positions, and John Terry puts his whole body on the line and throws himself headfirst into every ball, and if he's producing a win for us, then
and cleared a ball behind the goal line last night.
We needed a little bit of fortune, didn't we?
Yeah, we had luck last night, didn't we?
Dave, people seem to think that our panel of experts seem to believe that he should be there for all the right reasons because of the round ball.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, you know, my personal, well, I'm obviously a Chelsea fan, so I'm bound to be pretty pro JT. But I have to say, I think that a lot of the stuff that was coming out from Rio before the tournament was very disingenuous and sounded like sour grapes, suggesting or insinuating that JT had been chosen over him for anything other than football reasons. I mean, just look at the facts from last season. JT, you know, and as part of the Chelsea defence, was very instrumental in getting us to the Champions League final through heroic defending. So on form, I'd say he had a better season than than Rio. Rio has been very injury prone, and I think there were a lot of people saying that he'd struggled to make 2 games in a week anyway. So, you know, for me, it should have always been about football reasons. I agree with your panel entirely when they all said, as one, you know, it's the manager's decision to pick the best team that he feels is available. And that has to be on football reasons. And I think he did just that. So for me, there should have been no argument or all the nasty insinuations that were going on at the time.
How much animosity could there be in a situation like that, where potentially race and other isms, not so much sexism in football, but certainly racism, gets involved? Is that a real issue in the dressing room, or do your players say, I play football?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't spend that much time in the dressing rooms at all. I mean,
you hear what goes on
outside. Of course, but my fitness levels wouldn't allow me to spend too much time in the dressing rooms. I think what I have seen at this tournament is a spirit in the England camp, which I think is really important, and I think that's possibly and probably come from the fact that the communication between the manager and the team is very English based, and
Steven Gerrard, I think,
and Steven Gerrard's led from the front.
Yes, that's right.
But when you watch them at half time or coming back on the pitch,
they look happy.
And at the end of the games,
that is the thing that struck me this time most of all. They look like they're comfortable. They look like they're enjoying themselves, which is actually what sport's all about and football should be all about. And he has clearly been able to give them that feeling of confidence. And the other thing that has been so different this time, and it's the media. The media have not hyped him up. I mean, I used to get so angry when, you know...
Don't you think they're giving him a bit of an easy run at the moment? It's the first, and everyone loves him now.
Yeah, but...
Why shouldn't we get behind our
If we lose
manager
4-0, for instance, on Sunday
night,
we're going to turn against them again.
Well, I think if we go out there and, you know, we're representing Queen and country, and we have pride to wear the 3 lions, and I think now, especially, you know, with the Jubilee, that everyone in the Olympics, you know, people are really getting behind our country, and the media not savaging and going
I think
behind
as long as, John, I think as long, I do think, and I think as long as they play and look like they really are trying to do their best, that's always what we wanted. The years that we watched England at different times, looking that, you know, they really couldn't care, and yet the supporters have paid a lot of money to be there, and there was a feeling that, you know, they were just there and it didn't really matter playing for their country, and I think this has done...
But I think we've gone into this tournament with realistic expectations.
Well, that's right, no expectations about it.
And you've got a group of players, some younger, coming to the squad, and the great thing is, and the question now is how much do we build up that expectation over the next few days?
Well, we're going to have to pause there, both in our expectation and in our answers. We've got a bank of callers waiting. We have to go to commercial break. So, lots more. Don't go away, be back in 2. And welcome back to the forum. Phone lines are buzzing. I'm going to go straight into a gentleman called Adam Nathan. We've got a panel of experts for you. Ask him a question.
Hi guys, I was wondering what you thought about the respective fines given to Nicklas Bendtner for his pants celebration and the Croatian FA for their fans' conduct at the European Championships.
Okay, just to refresh people's memories, I have a packet of Paddy Power Lucky Underpants. Excuse me, put that down there. Now, these were worn by Nicklas Bendtner, supposedly for no financial recompense to him. He wore them, he scored, he took his shorts down, he showed us the Paddy Power Lucky Pants, and he got himself fined £80,000. How does this contrast with some of UEFA's some slightly more mealy-mouthed fines of 16, 18, 20,000 and latterly 65,000 to Croatia for their issues with racism and neo-Nazi chanting? So, Hugo, let's have a...
I think it asks the questions where the priorities lie. I mean, I think, you know, in terms of TV money and advertising, a lot of people pay a lot of money to have around the billboards at the side and corporate sponsors of the game. So you can imagine that all these people who are putting a lot of money into these competitions must be furious that, you know, Paddy Power pants on the ass of the scorer, essentially running around in celebration when everyone's got his focus at him is you know.
Do you think that's heinous, though? Is it? I mean, it's ambush marketing of a description, but is that heinous? Is it as bad as throwing bananas on a football pitch?
Oh, of course not. I mean, but it just again makes me question the motivations. I mean, I think the punishment and the fines for racism in the crowd should be, you know, exponentially higher than an £80,000 one. It's not something that in Poland and or Ukraine that should ever be condoned, and especially with the histories of the countries, it should be something that they should aim to stamp out, and UEFA should be on it. Absolutely. I think as a top priority.
Okay, had Wayne Rooney, sorry, I know you're going to say something, but let me just throw this at you very quickly. Had Wayne Rooney have dropped his shorts to a small degree and said vote Labour in the next election on that, how would that have played out, do you think?
Well, I don't think he would have done that. But no, I think that's wrong. I mean, I do think there have to be rules about behaviour, and I actually think dropping your shorts anyway is rather
taking
silly
your top
and
off
pathetic.
and showing,
but I do think
I
agree with Hugo that, I mean, the fine itself was. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was being paid a lot of money. I doubt it. I think he probably perhaps did it as a bet or a joke or something, but it did seem an awful lot of money in comparison.
A bet would be a good term,
in comparison to what other, and I mean, the real issue behind it is that UEFA and FIFA and the IOC and all these big international sporting bodies, it's all fundamentally about money. I mean, why are we going to ruin the next UEFA, the next European Championships by bringing in more teams? You know, the whole thing is just it's all about money, money, and therefore that's. Obviously that they were going to, their sponsors were presumably very angry, and they decided to do it.
And presumably, Philip, at times, talking about the Olympics and the amount of, you were involved obviously with some of the key sponsors, protecting people like Visa for their sponsorship of the Olympic Games, is that critical?
Well, I think it has to be, and interestingly enough, the Olympics is a clean event, so you don't see any branding at all, and the IOC has spent a lot of time.
Except some poor little shop in Hackney had to change their name from Olympic something, which they've had all their life. Because I mean, that's just ridiculous. Well, absolutely ludicrous.
But the reality is that the whether it's the Olympic sponsors or sponsors do spend a lot of money sponsoring an event, and that goes to prize money. It goes to pay for part of the running of the games this summer. I think you've got to separate out the two issues of the fines for the races. I mean, I totally agree with Hugo.
Can I just give a twist to that?
Yeah.
What do you make of the comments of McDonald's being an unhealthy product, therefore it shouldn't associate itself with a healthy sport? Does that play badly to you?
Well, I spent a lot of time in the bid talking to sponsors, and whether it's McDonald's or Coke. Coke have been a sponsor of the Olympics since 1928, and McDonald's and Coke and Visa and other companies spend a lot of time on education and explaining the nutrition in their products, etc., etc. I'm not going to get into that discussion. All I will say is that I think sponsors are important to events, and the challenge that I think was faced this week was that, and I don't know whether Nicklas Bendtner got paid or not. I'd be slightly surprised if he didn't, if I'm really honest. But it was a bit of ambush marketing, quite clever. And I think if you allow it to happen, it will just continue to grow. So I think they were trying to send a message. But again, I'm
ironically, it got more publicity
because of what they did. I mean,
absolutely,
it's very clever.
We've got a lot of questions coming in on that issue.
Guerrilla marketing is very clever.
Adam, what do you think?
I have a bit of an issue with it. I mean, to give an example about the sponsorship, I had a bar of one chocolate taken away from me at the South African World Cup because it was the wrong bar and may have been caught on camera. So I definitely got their sympathies with the idea about the sponsorship. But I have a slight issue with, and I have no alternative at this stage, I have an issue with the FA of a country being fined for some morons in the crowd that have gone on wearing their shirt, supporting them. For their outrageous behaviour. I mean, if you think of what the FA does, I mean, the FA in this country, for example, they plough a lot of money into grassroots, referees, setting up new leagues, and it almost seems wrong that money should be taken away from that to pay for some morons chanting outrageous stuff. And yeah, I just have a slight issue, and I think it's quite important actually that the two fines are separated from each other, because Bendtner knew the rules and deliberately went against them, whereas I think the FA are probably doing all they can to try and stop this racist behaviour, but you can't really stop everyone.
Kate, do you go along with that?
Well, I think that's a very fair point, which doesn't actually get put across very often. But ultimately, I suppose the argument is that the governing body of the sport has to be responsible for the sport and the rules and how it's run. They can't clearly be responsible for every single individual fan. But I suppose in the case of, if that had happened, say, in England, we could prove as the English FA that we had done a huge amount to try and actually stop that kind of behaviour, which perhaps some of the other countries have not been able to do.
If we had a major punch-up at Arsenal one day, not you and me, but some of the fans, and it spilled over into the pitch, and we got fined, and that takes away from our kitty to sign players ostensibly. How would you feel about that? Do you think that's fair? Is it right that the authorities should have that?
I think when there's so many people watching and there's racism going on in the crowd, I think punishment by example. It's not something when you've got millions of people watching, cameras pointing everywhere. It's not something you want to see more, and if you're going to have to stamp it out, you can't really go to the houses of the people who've been chanting it. You have to charge who's representing them, and that's their FA.
So you're now ensconced in the Premier League, and you've got remit next year to whatever you're going to manage the team and your sponsors and everything else. Give us a sense of how you balance out the value of your sponsors against keeping the supporters happy.
Well, I mean.
Sorry, long question. It's quite bland, but it's actually very, very potent.
It's very important, and the fans are critical to every club and to every country, but we have got to find a way to make sure that we stamp out any form of abuse or chanting or racism. And my aim is to bring new fans as well as current fans to Loftus Road in this example, and it's about getting families, it's about growing the fan base, it's about making football a fun place to come, not just for people who are immersed in football and have been for years, but for kids that are growing up, and the examples we need to set those guys are the right ones, and we spend a lot of time making sure that we hopefully get the right message across and our fans listen to it.
We're doing a good job,
racism is one area which is everyone would agree with, but I mean, are we going to stop some of the? Are you going to try and say people shouldn't, the "you fat bastard" thing, all of this?
Yeah, because
and I don't want to do that because you're going to change the whole nature.
There is
of
a football humour, isn't there?
There is a football
banter
humour,
and the chants,
and which with all-seater stadium now, we have lost a huge amount. And it's really ironical that Germany can have, safe standing, and our Premier League will not even think of looking.
I was going to ask you that, Hugo. Because Kate made a very good point. In Germany, there's a lot of standing.
Yeah.
Would you, as a supporter of our game, welcome going back to standing again? I know.
Well, it's not the same. It's not going back to terraces. It's not going back to terraces. It's safe standing, so you can convert it for the European matches, and you're in your own. And it just creates.
It's standing of
another
another nature, though. Isn't
yeah,
it?
it's standing in a safe. I mean, there are some clubs would have loved to have done it, and every time they've suggested it, they get shot at. Literally, not quite literally.
Would you have it?
Well, I think it's something that's talked about a lot, and let's face it, fans stand up a lot.
Well, they do all the time, and then it's very annoying to people.
And I do take your points, and I think we want to remember what football is about, the passion, the excitement. I do think one of the things we've done is we've made sure that we have a family stand, because I want to encourage, and whatever the chanting of views.
Philip, do you think that sends out the wrong message? This is the family stand. This is okay. The rest of it's a bit iffy.
No, I don't think it does. I really don't. I think you have to provide a facility where fathers and mothers can bring their children along and feel that they're going to be in an environment where
atmosphere of the stadium.
That's not to say they won't enjoy the chanting, the singing, and
I have to say,
passion.
I think you've done a good job as well. It actually works well at your ground as well. Adam, we have 10 seconds before the break. I must ask you, happy about the Tottenham situation? I know you're a Spurs fan. I'm told you're a Spurs fan. So, what do you reckon?
My sins. I think it's ever so slightly worrying that it's 2 months till the season starts and we have one striker who we sold in 2008 and no manager. So hopefully things can be accelerated very soon.
Last word is yours. Who do you want as your next manager?
I think David Moyes would be the safest option. AVB could be the best and worst.
You heard it here. We're going for another break. Back very quickly. See you soon. welcome back. We are now going to go to the Ukraine. We have an England supporter called Josh. You've travelled the airwaves to London. We've got a panel waiting for you. Josh, what's your question?
Well, I have come out here and it's been a great tournament and the fans have all been great over it. But not many England fans have travelled over it, and I was just wondering, in the light of the recent Panorama documentary but also the Sky Sports News special report, are the BBC and Sky, do they have to take some responsibility for the lack of England fans that have travelled over here and are willing to travel to Poland and the Ukraine for the Euros?
Philip, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's difficult because I think I watched the Panorama programme and it was a challenging watch, and I've watched the media and the news, and I think it has probably put some people put in question whether people may or may not travel. What I have seen since people have been out there is fans enjoying themselves, and a lot of radio and TV programmes are out there with the English fans, and they seem to be having a great time getting behind the team. So I think it's a bit of a difficult one because the programme itself did make it look like it was going to be an expensive place to travel to and a difficult place for fans to feel comfortable in. So it's refreshing for the fans that are out there that they're having a really good time. It's a shame there aren't more of them.
Hugo, would you have gone if you weren't doing what you're doing?
Yeah, if I was off tickets, definitely, I would have been there in a heartbeat. I mean, I watched the Panorama documentary as well, and it was quite scary, but I thought a lot of the footage had been recycled from another documentary I saw on Ross Gant on
BBC seem
football.
to do that quite a lot, don't they?
There was some
did that with their last expose
Which
about
you'd seen
football.
before.
which I'd seen before, and I was actually quite aware of it. But I think the level of organisation these tournaments have, that if you go with your family, you're not going to be attacked by some thug on the street, or you wouldn't have thought so. I mean, imagine that people out there, even if they are football thugs, they've still got a heart. They're not going to hit a mother and child, are they?
I mean, I think there probably were fewer would have gone anyway this time because of the general economy and people there isn't just as much money around, and it was a difficult, awkward place in many ways to get to. But there is nothing like being at a World Cup with your team and with your supporters, and it was so wonderful listening this morning to, if I can mention it, Nicky Campbell, and talking to and hearing the enthusiasm. And the thing that struck me was, despite all of the talk about Ukrainians and the terrible country it is, and I'm sure they have a horrible human rights policy, but the reality was the Ukrainian fans, how they were working, supporting afterwards the England supporters and being nice.
And
there
seems to be a lot of
genuine,
off the pitch, does there?
Genuine support for each other.
The atmosphere in the stadium last night, I mean, I think it was 60,000 Ukrainians and 4,000 English fans, and the atmosphere looked
and
fantastic.
at the end, they were apparently not. I mean, I expect your nose. I mean, they weren't treated badly at all, were they?
Well, that sort of begs the question, Josh. How are you being treated over there?
Well, the people over here have been great. No one's, all the Ukrainians and local people are really friendly over here, and it's just been a great atmosphere. I think lots of the English fans who have come over here, they'll be coming back here in summers to come. The weather's nice, the beer's cheap, and the women are wonderful. And I think, I don't know who Sol Campbell's agent is, but he's got a lot of questions to answer. I think Sol Campbell's media career would probably be non-existent after going on that documentary for some of the stuff he's said. And I think it's a shame that they portrayed the Ukraine in that way. And if anyone wanted to come and who was coming to the Olympics, they could show footage of the London riots and go, this happens in London all the time. And it's, I mean, and people in London wouldn't like that, would they?
And the police presence, has it been, obviously not been onerous, but has it been problematic in any way, shape or form? Josh?
Yeah.
Has the police presence in the Ukraine been overly onerous in any way, shape or form, or is it just a very gentle policing?
No, there's been very gentle policing. The stewarding at the stadiums has been very good. In fact, we were sat in with loads of Ukraine fans around us the other day. When England scored, we jumped up and celebrated, and people were shaking our hands around us. There was no trouble whatsoever.
That's great.
That sounds like a win-win.
I think the difference this morning was, I listened to Nicky Campbell as well, he was waking all the England fans up. We'd had a great night out. That was probably the biggest disturbance
that
we've seen.
So where do you think this leaves us in the future? Are we going to begin to lose our reputation for being a troublesome group of travelling supporters?
I really hope that England fans are always there, like flying the flag and representing for us. I mean, when you get to the final, you need that kind of 12th man, which is the crowd, to see you through to the end of the game. And if you haven't got the support there, I don't know how the players would suffer, but I think it's always better for the players on the pitch when they know they've got people like singing "God Save the Queen" in the crowd. So let's make sure that always happens.
It's great to see the team as well doing the same. I think
Yeah.
there's been a real,
bit of a
And
silly
no
question,
booing,
this,
and
do
no
you-
booing of the other national anthem, which used to happen all the time.
It's a bit of a silly question, this, but it was in my head. Do you think the Diamond Jubilee has helped? Do you think the fact that we've not suddenly, but we are certainly, has been a resurgence of patriotism?
Oh, I think I think it's great that people can feel proud to say they support the monarchy, and I've always been a monarchist, but I just feel so happy that a lot of people who you knew would have wanted to say, oh gosh, we don't really want. Now they don't actually want to put their head up, and it has actually cheered everybody up despite the weather.
And now we've got the Olympics.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there are issues around the Olympics. There's going to be transport, there's going to be other bits and pieces. Ticketing has been a bit iffy here and there, but essentially I think Britain has got behind
United
the London
Kingdom.
Games, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
The United Kingdom. Yes, I should say that correctly now, shouldn't
I think they will. I think they will.
Great Britain encompasses the United Kingdom.
No, Great Britain excludes Northern Ireland, and of course I'm coming from Northern
you come
Ireland.
from
I'm part
Northern
of the United
Ireland.
Kingdom.
Okay.
I'm very-
That's why when I go to America they make me sign United Kingdom on my So it seems like the United Kingdom's got behind.
I think so.
The
I mean,
whole
I think it's
Olympic
going to be.
project.
I think it's going to be. I was lucky enough to be in Athens in 2004 and Beijing for a while in 2008, and I mean Athens was a wonderful event to go to, and there was a lot of concern about whether Athens was going to be ready for the games. Beijing had its own challenges, but televisually, I think it was a stunning event.
I was lucky to be sports minister when we went to Sydney, and of course Sydney was just wonderful. And I think if we can do even, and the whole volunteer thing started in Sydney, and I think our volunteers, that's going to be such an important
You know what's
part
going to be
of
also
our
great?
Olympics.
Fabulous programme, I agree. I must just cut
sorry.
to Josh quickly because we've got a whole queue of calls coming in. Josh, happy with the answers? What do you think?
I'm finding it really hard to hear you at the moment. What was that? Sorry.
I just wanted to see what you thought of the answers that the panel have given you.
It's really cracking up.
Josh, enjoy
Okay.
the quarterfinals.
Josh,
Yeah.
all we're going to say to you is enjoy the rest of the tournament. We hope you're there for another couple of weeks yet. I have a guy.
I just want to say, if England fans have had any doubts about coming over, don't. It's been great. The atmosphere's been great, and the Ukrainian people have been so friendly. Come over, support the team for the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and hopefully the final as well.
So there you are. If you have any tickets, go. If you haven't got any tickets, go buy them from legitimate sources and go and support the team. David, you're very welcome on the programme. How are you?
How are you?
Good, thank you. What do you want to
Good.
ask?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll agree. Roy's done brilliant so far. We've come in 2 wins out of those 3 group games. Had a very good draw with France. We've been superb. Can we win it?
There's a question. Hugo, are we going to win this thing?
I can realistically see us beating Italy. I think we got the speed on the flanks with Walcott and Oxlade-Chamberlain rather than Milner to get past the Italian defence. So I think it's Maggio who plays on their right side, who's got real pace as well. You know, the Italians are excellent technically in defence, and so it's going to take a proper magic moment, like a screamer from 30 yards from Gerrard or something. But I think it's going to be one of those games. I think England-Italy always produces a real spectacle. I think now that we're out of the group stages, the coyness not to go forward, you know, you've got 90 minutes to go out there and win it. I think we're going to.
Kate, do you agree with that?
There's only 3 matches to play and 3 results, and you've won. But I mean, I still think you can't ever write off Spain. Germany.
I was just going to say, that, assuming Hugo's right, Philip, a small couple of matters of Germany and Spain between
Germany.
us and the trophy.
I mean,
Or potentially Germany.
Well, anything can happen in any of the games.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing is, I mean, having watched Chelsea, for example, go through the Champions League quarter-final, semi-final, and final, in all of those games, they were up against it. And I'd like to think that the stoicism of England and the support that we've got out there, a bit like Josh and some of the other guys. I think we've got a very good chance, and I think we need a bit of luck. I hope it doesn't go to penalties. The one thing I really hope we can do is win on merit in 90 minutes or 120 minutes. I think when you get down to penalties,
to lose on penalties would
it's
be
very
just
challenging.
David, what do you think?
Well, the joys of knockout football is that obviously anything can happen. I think we've got what it takes to get through Italy. I think as for potentially getting through Germany, it could be a little bit tricky, but you still, you mentioned Chelsea in the Champions League. They dug so deep against Bayern Munich and Barcelona, didn't they? you just think that this England team under Roy, it's well organised. Often two banks of four. I know that last night for the goal that never was, the defence got caught out. But every good defence gets caught out. It's the fact is they still went back and they still went to try and defend it.
Do you think we can defend deeply? I mean, really deeply, like Chelsea did in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think we can. I think Lescott and Terry are getting a good partnership together. I think Ashley Cole's been superb for us so far, and Glenn Johnson, I think, has actually surprised many.
A world-class goalkeeper as well.
It
makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think with the exception of maybe Neuer or even Casillas, obviously those are two top quality goalkeepers themselves. I think Joe Hart is the best goalkeeper at the Championships. I think he's probably the best goalkeeper. Well, he's definitely one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Rooney, he wasn't great last night, but he got a goal.
But he got a goal.
That's going to get a monkey off his back. So,
thank you, David. We're going to run with your sentiment. The politician on our panel is Kate, but the non-political view mixed with the political view. Appointment of Roy Hodgson. I know in hindsight it's wonderful. Were you for it at the beginning?
Yes, I'm very, very, very pleased. I
think the
saying
FA
earlier,
I
watched his
well.
progress.
There was only four of them that made the decision.
I think they've handled it very well, and I think it is the right decision at this time. And I just hope that whatever happens, even on Sunday against Italy, that there isn't some kind of media outcry, and I hope he actually stays with England. Certainly for the next World Cup.
Do you think if we get beaten badly by Italy, that love affair's over with Roy?
I hope it isn't, because I think he's only been in the job for a couple of months, and I think it also demonstrates you don't have to have somebody that's been in the job for 2 or 3 years leading up to a tournament. What you have to have is somebody that can motivate a team.
And you don't have to pay somebody millions and millions to get them to manage their country.
But it's about motivating a team over 5 or 6 weeks. I've loved seeing the England team walking around the streets, being accessible,
that's
not hiding away.
So great.
I think he's got the blend right.
You're a football fan. I keep saying this to you. I don't need to keep reminding you, but you are. What do you think?
Of the appointment of Roy Hodgson.
The appointment of Roy and how it happened. Does it make you feel
I
think English as a football supporter?
He was the right choice, and then on a more personal level, like Harry thinking he might get it made their season slip up. So it means Arsenal gone to the Champions League. So on a personal level, I'll accept that one. No, I like Roy Hodgson. He's definitely inspired the team, and I think having a manager who can deliver that team talk at half time, where they can connect with that English sentiment of like, come on, go out there, do it, lads. And I think Fabio Capello was.
But I think it's important to work out. Say also, the decision about where they were staying was taken before Roy, and that was Bernstein. And I think the FA are showing, they seem to have turned around a bit and are just that little bit more savvy.
Hold on a minute, we're having all three people saying nice things about the Football Association.
Which is not usually from me, as you know.
It's a good place to put a full stop. David, thank you very much for joining us.
Anytime, guys.
We'll be back in a few minutes. These guys have got a lot more to say. We've got a couple more questions that come in as well. Thank you. Don't go away. We'll have a cup of tea and come back in a couple of minutes. And you're very welcome back to the forum. I'm in the company of Hugo Taylor, Kate Hoey, Philip Beard, and we have a gentleman called Alex Mitchell from... Actually, Alex, you're a Wimbledon fan, I hear. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, we're going to be talking football clubs and a little bit of England. So tell us what you want to ask.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to ask, the new £3 billion television deal that's come through is going to bring even more wealth to the Premier League clubs. Will the clubs spend it all on foreign talent, or will they finally invest some serious money into developing young English players and help out the national side for the future?
Well, it took me a long while when I heard this question might be asked to figure who to start with, and I reckon, Philip, this is your ball.
Well, I think the first thing to say is it's a stunning deal that's been done by the Premier League, and I think it also demonstrates the power of the brand, the power of the Premier League. And they're the domestic rights that have been sold.
And something to celebrate when the economy's all over the place, the world economy. I mean, we are a success.
Well, I think, and they've still got to sell the international rights for QPR. I mean, having held on at the last gasps of the last game of last season, and for all QPR fans, it's just great to be part of the Premier League. I think what really is important, I think your caller makes a very important point, it's how we use the money. And I think one of the things we're doing, for example, is building a new training ground, and most clubs now are developing, if they haven't got developed academies, training grounds where you can start to nurture talent. And I think that's where you're going to start to develop talent that becomes valuable, both to your first team and maybe when you need to trade and sell players. So I'm hopeful that clubs like ourselves will see this as an investment that we can make in young talent, and talent that can come through and play for QPR in years to come. But it's a great deal, but again, it just demonstrates the success and the power of the Premier League, both in the UK and around the world.
Hugo, you're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest entertainment platforms on the planet, if not the biggest. Does that make you proud or concerned about the custodians of our game, of our entertainment platform?
Well, I mean, football, and especially the Premier League, is exported globally. I think, you know, man, people are watching China, like everywhere. It's got such a big following. I know in Nigeria as well. Like, people are so passionate about who do you support, Arsenal, Manchester United. And when we're exporting something globally, you know, it's kind of costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of money made through sponsorship. But I think if the monies are coming into the club, then, you know, if it's spent on English players or developing English talent.
Is that important to you?
I just want to see my team win, really. And I think, you know, we want the best type of entertainment if we're paying money on Sky to watch the games.
So if Arsenal win the Championship next year, won the Premier League next year with 11 foreign players, overseas players, and a squad of 26, of which 25 were not British or from the United Kingdom. How would that make you feel?
I think we live in a global world. I think, you know, London is a cosmopolitan city, and I don't really think if you're from the European Union or any other country in the world, if you're a great footballer and you deserve to pay for the club, then you deserve to pay for the club.
No, I remember, Kate, when you were sports minister, you were one of the few that didn't bash football. You were very supportive of football over the years. It seems to have taken a lot of pot shots over the years from politicians. You were one of the few that actually didn't.
Well, I was
do
always
you feel this still should promote our national team as well as our game?
I do, and I do feel that, you know, it would be rather nice if. What worries me now is that a lot of the big clubs, very, very few of the people, the kind of people I represent in parts of inner cities, can actually afford to go to football. And I really do think that it would be actually quite good if the clubs were to spend some of that money in reducing.
Reducing just the entertainment platform. If you go to the West End Theatre, and I know you don't do that every Saturday, but if you did, the ticket prices would be commensurate.
No, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. There isn't, you know, football is a culture to people within London, or in my case, within Vauxhall, which, you know, is not going to be met by going to the theatre once every 6 weeks or every 3 months or so. But also, I do think, you know, I'm an Arsenal supporter, and I used to run the education. I love Arsenal, but I do find it quite sad that there are so few now, in comparison to what used to be, homegrown players coming through. And unless we get that development right and put some of that money into the academies, and it has got better, but an awful lot of the people at those academies are coming from abroad, French youngsters who have been trained in clubs that are actually linked with some of our Premier League clubs.
Slight dichotomy there, isn't it, chaps? Because, you know, they pay this money because of the immense talent that we've got, and yet if we say, well, 30% of that's got to be British, maybe we won't get that money in the future.
I think on a different tack, I think the new School of Excellence, or the football academy in Burton that's been developed, that's an opportunity for us to utilise that. That's been a long time in the coming, and it's now there to nurture and develop English talent.
And Roy Hodgson has said he wants to be pertinently involved in that.
And I think he will be, and I think that's what we've got to look at.
Yeah.
From a club perspective, I agree with Hugo. I mean, we need success on the pitch and success off the pitch. It would be great to nurture young talent that is English as well, but the reality is it is a global market.
But also, is it not time for the Premier League? I mean, thinking our viewer there is, and our questioner is a Wimbledon supporter, but what about people who are supporting, you know, further down the league?
That's a very good
I mean,
point.
how do we get
Alex,
them to feel part of this?
That's a sentiment I'd like to hear your views on. So the Premier League have got all this money. Your club is in the lower divisions. How should that, or should it, drip down to your clubs as well? Your club too.
Well, I mean, I think Kate hit the nail on the head when she was talking about the way the Premier League sort of pulled the game away from the fans. I mean, if you look at the spiralling cost of season tickets, I think she was spot on. That was my main concern is with this £3 billion Premier League deal. I mean, it's great. You go back to the old system before the Premier League, and the way TV rights and media rights used to be shared out, they used to be shared out. So the Premier League got a cut, Championship, League One, League Two. And I know you can say, everyone wants to watch the Premier League and no one wants to watch the League Two clubs and stuff like that. But if you don't put money into the lower levels, those clubs can never aspire to be Premier League sides. You're going to just develop a gulfing class between what is the Premier League and what is the lower, what are the lower divisions. We saw, I mean, use Wimbledon as an example, the rise in the 80s of Wimbledon through the divisions. I don't think without serious investment, those clubs can ever do that again. They can't hope to achieve that anymore. And it does worry me for the future of the game that you do appear to be seeing this greater gulfing class now between the Premier League and the lower leagues.
Okay, harsh question this. Do you have a divine right to be where you are, and should people hand feed you? In other words, if the Premier League is what the world wants and that's where the money's going, should there be a sort of Premier League Division 2 and the rest just do what they have to do, which may be go part-time? How do you... Let me ask you that very quickly, Alex, and I want the panel to answer that as well.
I've completely lost what you're saying, guys. I can't hear you.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a second, Alex. So, does the football leagues, football league clubs, have a divine right to exist in the format that they have done, or maybe the same as everything else? Maybe there's no Woolworths anymore. Maybe the football league becomes part-time, and maybe there's a Premier League 1 and 2. Hugo, what do you think?
I think it's a league, and I think that you either go up or you go down, and football's a competition, it's a sport.
Yes, but there's no link now, funding-wise,
Div 1
under the
clubs
old
can't
FA.
exist,
The
should
money
they be fed by the Premier League money that this deal is now going to...
I mean, it would be ideal, wouldn't it, to have some of the money shared out, but unfortunately it costs a lot of money to run a Premier League football club.
But I look at local little clubs in my area, and they find
players who get paid $250,000 a week.
Well, actually, some of the players have been quite good about helping out some of these small clubs, but some of these little tiny, amateur clubs with youngsters playing on a Saturday, and the volunteers, and they're all run by volunteers, have to spend so much time just raising money to get the minibus service so that they can take the youngsters to play their 5-a-side, 7-a-side or 11-a-side match. And I just think, ultimately the responsibility for football, the FA has to take that responsibility for the game from the very, very bottom level right to top. And we've lost that link now.
Maybe it's your responsibility. Sadly, we don't, or partly your responsibility. We don't have enough time to go any deeper today. I want to ask you one very quick final question. It's January 2013. You're 19th or 18th in the league. You have this wonderful pot of gold coming up next year if you're there. Are you going to spend your way out of January? Are we going to see a January like we've never seen before?
We want to stay in the Premier League. I mean, just for the ticket price, we froze every ticket price across our whole stadium this season. But we want to stay in the Premier League, and we need to invest in the squad in order to do that. But in the Premier League, there are 3 or 4 leagues in that one.
You just
league.
want to stay there, so you have to do what you got to do.
For all QPR fans, I really want us to stay there, definitely.
I think we all went to. We all like to Loftus Road as well. Philip Beard, Kate Hoey, a rose between two thorns. Hugo Taylor, you've been magnificent, all of you. Thank you so much for answering the questions of the genuine fans. And to the genuine fans, all of you out there, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again soon, and keep enjoying the tournament. Keep supporting the team. See you again soon. Good night.